Just to fill in a little bit of my personal background, I graduated from law school in 1990, the year that the Americans with Disabilities Act was signed into law. I graduated in May. Former President Bush signed it into law in July, so that was good timing for me. I have bipolar disorder and manic depression, so I've pretty much lived my professional career kind of in the wake of the Americans with Disabilities Act and the disability rights movement leaders that came together to make that law happen and to make precursors like Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act happen. So I kind of see myself as a second generation disability activist, somebody who's benefited from the work of folks who came before me. And one of the things I've tried to do in my career is work closely with the next generation and the generation after that of disability leaders and activists, and really try to inspire some advocacy and activism in the younger generations of people with disabilities. I thought I would share a story in that vein. My wife and I were invited to come to the preschool where our oldest son was attending. This was when he was 3. He's now 14, so this is a while ago. I was working at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission for Paul Miller, who was one of the commissioners there and who's now a professor at the law school at this university. So the session was called Community Helpers. And the idea was parents come in and we talk about what we do in our day-to-day lives and explain how that helps the community. So, if I were a firefighter or something, I would have been very popular, but I was a lawyer at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and I wanted to try and make that interesting for the 3-year-olds. My wife actually was the first to go and do this, and she's a history professor at the University of Baltimore. So she came in with kind of age-appropriate historical artifacts, and she just completely wowed the kids and the teachers, and she was like a huge hit. So the pressure was on when it was my turn to come, and I was thinking about it. I said, okay, I want to get across that I'm a lawyer, that I work for the government, that I do civil rights work, and that within that my emphasis is disability civil rights. And I kind of intuited that the hardest part for them might be this concept of disability. So I was practicing on my 3-year-old. His name is Anthony Garrett, but we called him AG at the time. So I said, AG, do you know what a disability is? And he said, yeah. And I said, what is it? And he said, I don't know. And I said, well, like somebody who uses a wheelchair. Who do you know who uses a wheelchair? And he said, Chris Griffin, who at the time was working for the vice chair, Paul Gasaki, at the EEOC, and she was high on AG's radar screen because she gave him a lot of presents. And then I said, or somebody who's blind and uses a white cane, who do you know who's blind? And he said, Chris Kaczynski, and he knew Chris because Chris and I commuted together from Baltimore, and sometimes we would give him a ride home from the train station. And then I said, AG, sometimes people have a disability, but you can't tell from looking at them that they have a disability, and some people call that a hidden disability. So I said, AG, can you give me an example of a hidden disability? And without missing a beat, he said, like being a lawyer? So I swear to God, that's a true story. Sometimes the true stories are better than anything you can make up. But some people would see it as a sign of progress that all the disabled people that my 3-year-old knew were lawyers. Some people might not see that as a sign of progress. But anyway, it's a funny story. And I do think this topic for today, hidden disabilities or non-apparent disabilities, which is the more kind of political way to refer to that constituency. Some people don't like the word hidden because it sounds like the people that have the disability are trying to hide it. So non-apparent is less judgmental in terms of, the person, and they're not making a decision necessarily to hide the disability. I tell that story also just to say that it is important that we talk to our children about disability, and we find ways to help them connect with the term where it's comfortable, where they can ask questions, where they understand how broad it is, where they understand how people can have the same label and have it manifest in very different ways. And I just encourage everybody in this room to take advantage of those opportunities. You're all here because in one way or another you're interested in this topic, and this topic is relevant for your professional lives and your personal lives. But take the time to talk to your children, your nephews, your nieces, young people that you're interacting with, and help them understand, what the term means, how broad it is, and that it doesn't necessarily have to equate with anything negative in terms of outcomes. I am a policy